In today's video, we're looking at how our routines change with the seasons. From waking up in the darker hours to picking our last tomatoes before they freeze, and ensuring our hair and skin are protected against the colder air. For me, I try to use those darker hours to work on something small, like feeding my sourdough starter, making a quick recipe I'm experimenting with, or doing one chore in the garden. Sometimes I'll head to the gym as I know by the evening all I want to do is make a cup of tea and cuddle up working on a new project, preferably inside. I now take a little time on the weekend mornings to give my curls a deep conditioning and start moisturizing my skin a little more regularly. I'll also share with you some refillable options that are of course vegan and cruelty-free that I've been a fan of for a while by Plain Products, who are kindly sponsoring today's video. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to, it really helps me out. Okay, grab a cup of tea and let's get into it. Good morning, everyone. It's a very grey day. I think it's going to rain all day today. It's definitely autumn. As it gets darker in the mornings, and I think daylight savings is this weekend as well, I try to make use of those early morning hours before I start work to just do something, like work on like a little project, something really small that doesn't take more than maybe 5 to 15 minutes. It's just to kind of get myself away from my phone in the morning, to do something that I also enjoy but also needs to get done. This morning I'm actually making my second sourdough loaf, which first one was okay. I think I didn't use the starter at the right time. I used it when it was like a little bit risen, but not like fully risen. I'm also going to try making something else today, experimenting with sourdough bagels, which I think will be very exciting if I can get that right. We're finally addressing all the green tomatoes that we have as well. I picked those a couple mornings ago as my sort of morning chore. That took about 10 minutes because I didn't realize just how many there were. We're going to be doing two things with the green tomatoes. Firstly, we're going to be making a chutney. My mum sent me a really good recipe and she said that it's delicious, so we're going to be making that today. And also someone on Instagram sent me an idea to lacto ferment the green tomatoes because apparently that's really delicious. So I'll do that with some garlic, some red onion, and maybe some of this Greek basil that I also picked off the lettuce grow. The lettuce grow is a much bigger chore that I need to do. That probably won't take 15 minutes because we're going to get freezing weather in a couple of weeks, or maybe next week. So I need to take everything off there, give it a really good clean before bringing it back inside for the winter, because otherwise the water will freeze and the pump will stop working and it will be useless to us anymore. I've also started making my coffee slightly differently. My parents bought me a coffee machine for my birthday, which was incredibly generous, and if you don't know me that well, you won't know that I like things to be as simple and easy as possible, and this is like the quickest way to make a coffee in the morning, so it leaves a lot of time for other things, which is okay. Let's get this next loaf of sourdough in the oven, see how this one turns out. Continuing to wake up at the same time in the dark and the cooler temperatures is certainly a challenge, but I've really found that sticking to a schedule, no matter how simple it is, has really helped me to stay productive throughout the day and just to also get stuff done that really is important. I have also found that doing these small chores in the morning provides me a kind of reason to get up early, because if I want to make that sourdough bread, I have to get up at a specific time. Otherwise you seem to run out of time because of the process. I've also started going to the gym in the mornings because I just can't bear to go in the cold in the evenings now. So I tend to go after I've got my chores done and a bit of work, and it's been really helpful for my mental health just to keep that routine going. When I get back from the gym, usually on the weekends, I take a little bit more time to deep condition my hair and take care of my curls as well as my skin. My hair will look different each day. Maybe I will have straightened it, or it will be perfectly neat or a little crazy like today. So on the days that I wash my hair, I tend to shampoo and give my scalp a nice massage, and then I'll use a deep conditioner by Plain Products. It's incredibly nourishing and hydrating, which is something my curls desperately need. It also really helps in the days after I've washed it to ensure that it's actually more manageable and that the curls really hold. I've been using their styling gel recently as well, which I've been looking for years. A nice refillable one that's sustainable, vegan and cruelty free. They also have a hair repair spray, which is obviously very helpful all year round, but particularly for me in the winter when I have to blow dry my hair, because otherwise it would literally take 6 hours for my hair to dry. I'm pretty excited to highlight their refillable styling gel because I've been looking for one for a long time, and theirs doesn't have any harsh chemicals in the styling gel, which provides a flexible hold. Plain Products works really hard to be sustainable, and they are really committed to making everything as eco-friendly as possible. Their products are packaged in refillable aluminium bottles to reduce plastic waste, and once you're done with your bottle, you can send it back to either be refilled or they'll make sure to reuse it themselves. If you want to learn more, check out Plain Products in the description below. It must be a mix of the naturally dry weather and then the cold, but my skin is so much drier as we head into the colder months. And I end up having to moisturize my skin so much more. And I'm definitely lazy. I honestly thought that I would have to moisturize a lot more in the summer because it would be hotter and I assumed it would be drier. But for me, for some reason, it's as the weather gets cooler, I am definitely finding that my skin, especially my face, is feeling a lot more dry. Also because I climb 2 or 3 times a week, my hands are getting a lot drier because I'm using a lot of chalk, and chalk obviously dries out your hands. And so I have to be really careful, otherwise my hands just become like sandpaper. Oh, this smells really good. Plain Products actually sent me this to try maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and it was one of the best moisturizers I think I've used. Still such a big fan, which is why I got the same thing. I also first discovered them actually when I first went to visit Shelby. She has been using Plain Products for years and years and years. Just gonna put a little bit extra on my hands. Some of the nice things about these products are they're things that we can share, so we can just use one thing rather than both of us having something different. He also uses the moisturizer. Obviously we both share the hand wash and the gel, the styling gel, which is really cool. I guess it's time to get dressed. When it comes to the sourdough, I've been trying a different method every day. Today is the 3rd day, and even though I think the sourdough that we made this morning was really good, I'm just trying another additional step to see how much of a difference that actually makes and if it improves flavor. And then once I get the fundamentals of sourdough down, I then want to experiment with different flavors like rosemary sea salt, fig and walnut, and then, you know, make as many seasonal loaves as possible and yeah, utilize the freezer to preserve them so that I don't have to make them as often. But it's pretty exciting finally starting to get it right and understand when you're supposed to use the starter and things like that. And also I want to start using the sourdough starter for other things like focaccia, make it even fluffier, and then also sourdough bagels too. I've been experimenting a lot in the kitchen recently as part of my morning kind of projecting, and I recently made a fermented hot sauce, one with habanero and sweet peppers, and then one with habanero, sweet peppers, and a lot of coriander. I also decided to do 2 recipes with the green tomatoes because I just had so many. I think I had over 2 kilograms just of the green ones. So for the first thing, I decided to do a green chutney because my mum told me that she had a really great recipe by Riverford, I think it was. So she sent it to me and I made a few adjustments just depending on what I had in the cupboards. But it's a very sweet chutney, I think, because I can't find cooking apples in the US. I can only find kind of normal apples, and cooking apples are usually a little bit sour, so they take some of the sweetness away. But apart from that, I also made these lacto-fermented green tomatoes. I'm very excited to see how those turn out. Once the chutney had cooled down, I just put it in a mason jar, and I'm going to store that in the fridge until we finish eating it, to be honest. So I'm currently in the process of making my 4th sourdough loaf of the week and I wanted to show you what my starter looks like. I always put a rubber band, or I keep this rubber band on it so I can see how much it's risen, and as you can see it's like, well, it's definitely ready. You know your starter is ready if you can see lots of bubbles on the side and the top is slightly domed. If it's gone concave, that means it's reached its peak and it's starting to come down, and that's not when you want to use it. That's why thinking about timing is good and important, but actually watching your sourdough, your starter and your loaf, I have found that that's the best predictor of when your stuff or your loaf, your starter is ready to use. It smells pretty fresh because I fed it this morning in advance of making the sourdough. When I move it around, it definitely starts to be less happy going concave because it's like, what are you doing? But you can tell it's definitely like, I need to use it now. Each day I've been using a different technique because I think especially with things like baking, if you live at sea level or altitude, recipes are very important as a good starting point, but then I think it's really great to experiment. So I started with an all white flour recipe and then I changed it slightly so that it's mostly white flour and now whole wheat flour as well. I think it adds to the flavor, and I think that as a beginner, it really helps to allow it to rise more. Technique is really important. I think that that's probably the most important thing because shaping and creating tension is what gives you that beautiful rise. And then oven temperature and definitely experimenting with that. I think we're on day 3 curls, which is when I tend to put my curls up. I'm still trying hard to take care of them at night time so that they look better the next day. But the last time I got a haircut, which is probably a year ago now, not very good. They said that I need to add moisture into my hair more frequently. So I usually wash my hair once a week, but I need to wet it like at least once more per week to add moisture in, especially as it's super dry. Obviously in the UK it was very humid, or there was a lot more moisture in the air, so my hair felt a lot more full. And being here, being in a drier climate, especially getting into winter, I found that my hair feels a lot thinner. So I'm trying to add more water in and make sure I'm using things like the deep conditioner and hair repair and things like that. I'm going to be away for a few weeks, and so I need to get that lettuce grow back inside, or at least empty, and I need to clear the garden. So, but that's a chore for tomorrow morning. Keeping up my 5 to 15 minutes per morning in the darker hours to try and get that stuff done. I think I've got to eat some more sourdough.